Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be back after a little bit of a break. I wanted to share something with you that I was thinking on Wednesday. We celebrated here in Jerusalem a day called Yom Yerushalaim, Jerusalem Day. And it celebrates the reunification of this city that took place during the Six-Day War in 1967, when Jewish soldiers recaptured the old city and reacquired the Kotel and the Temple Mount. And it's a wonderful day of celebration that's primarily punctuated by a great flag celebration. So that means that I think this year there were something like 40,000 people streaming through the streets of Jerusalem into the old city, waving flags, singing and celebrating. Now, flags are an interesting thing because sometimes when we see flags, we get a little nervous. We start to feel that there's some sort of nationalism or chauvinism taking place. And to be honest, we don't always feel all that comfortable with it. But actually, it's an amazing thing, because if we look in this week's Parsha, a major discussion, a major section of the Parsha is dealing with flags. There's a quite an elaborate, detailed explanation of how the Jewish people would travel together in the desert, and it designates which tribes would travel exactly in which positions relative to where the temple, the Mishkan, the traveling tabernacle was. 3 on the east, 3 on the west, 3 in the north, 3 in the south, and each tribe had its own flag. And then each group of tribes, each group of 3 had a flag, and it goes into great detail and talks about this process. The Talmud goes into even more detail and talks about the insignias and the specific emblems that were displayed on the flags. There is an interesting medrash. The rabbis comment in the medrash that the nations of the world gathered and would watch the Jewish people, this entourage of the Jewish people passing by in the desert with these flags, and they would say, wow, what an amazing nation that travels in such a beautiful fashion with their flags. And that's pretty much what the Medrash says. Now, there's a bit of a question mark here, because flags are not a unique phenomenon to the Jewish people. Nations have always carried flags. It's the way that one nation designates itself from another. The French have flags, the British have flags, the Germans have flags. Every country, every nation, every group, every tribe perhaps has its flag. So what was it that was so unique, that was so spectacular about the way the Jewish people were traveling with their flags? Well, the answer might be perhaps that the nations were not astounded or inspired by the mere fact that the Jewish people were traveling with flags. What they were inspired by is something much deeper. Because as I said, flags usually divide. My flag means I'm part of this group and I'm not part of your group, and you're not part of my group, and we're not together, and we're separate, and we are disconnected, and I'm proud and I'm willing to fight for my group, my people, my tribe, my nation, and you're willing to fight for your group and your people and your tribe and your nation. Usually flags divide people. What was so shocking or remarkable that the nations were observing as the Jewish people were traveling, each group, each tribe with its own individual flag, was the fact that despite this display of individualism, there was still a complete and total sense of unity that pervaded the situation. The Jewish people were traveling as a nation, each tribe, each group with its own flag, but they were traveling in unison, in unity. And what was it that unified them? What unified them was in the very center. The center was the Mishkan, the traveling tabernacle, the tablets, God's presence, spirituality, holiness, morality, monotheism, the values, the principles that the Jewish people have always stood for. Now let's take a step back and think about this. We're in a unique time. The Jewish people are being challenged all over the world. Our ethics, our morality are being put on in the spotlight, and people are questioning and condemning us for acts, atrocities, which, to be honest, are absurd. We have to know and we have to understand that we are a special people. We are a unique nation. A unique nation means that there's all kinds of people that make up the Jewish people. We're not all the same. Take a look around, walk down the streets in Jerusalem, and you'll see every type of person you could ever imagine. All Jews. What's important for us is that we have our uniqueness, that we maintain our special qualities, that are associating us with groups or with tribes or with people, but to remember what unifies us. What unifies us is a common belief in Hashem, a common belief in the sanctity and the holiness of God's Torah, a common belief that we are a light unto the nations, that we have a unique role to play in the history of mankind. And if we stay connected to that mission and that vision and that clarity and allow that to unite us, then we can express our individuality in this world, and the nations will look upon us and say, how glorious are these people? Not why are they committing genocide? Not what a evil, horrible nation, but what a godly people, what a holy people, what a moral and ethical, remarkable nation the Jewish people are. That's our mission. That's what we got to work on. Wishing you all a wonderful Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom from Yerushalaim.